desert dweller. There is no room in any town, he said, to house the towering hugeness of my dream. It straightens me to sleep in any bed whose foot is nearer on the night's extreme. There is too much of solitude and crowds for one who has been where constellations teem, where boulders meet with boulders on the clouds and hills convene, who has talked of evening with mountains clad in many-colored shrouds. Men pity me for the scant gold I bring, unguessed within my heart the solar glare on monstrous gems that lit my journeying. They deem the desert flowerless and bare, who have not seen above their heads unfold the vast and verdant lotus of blue air, nor know what hanging gardens I behold, with half-shut eyes between the earth and moon, in thoughtless, iridescent tears unrolled. For them the planted fields their various bloom, for me the verdure of inviolate grass, in far mirages vanishing at noon. For them the mellowed strings, the strident brass, the cry of love, the clangor of great horns, the thunder-burdened waves where thousands pass. For me the silence welling from dark urns, from fountains past the utmost world and sun, to overflow some day the desert bournes and take the sounding cities one by one. Malediction. While the black perennial snows piled about the pole of night swell the fount whence leafy flows, while the worm apart from light eats the page where magians poured, while the kraken, blind and white, guards the greening books abhorred, where the evil ogams rest, in accursed Atlantis stored, while beneath the seal of dust dead mouths mutter not in sleep to betray oblivion's trust, while the dusky planets keep past the outlines of the sun circuits of a sunless deep. Never shall the spell be done, and the curse be lifted, never, that shall find and leave you run, live forgotten things forever. Tired gardener, cherish them not, the ostentatious roses grown with care, extravagant the Tyrian fuchsias drooping, with heaviness of over-nurtured bloom, and orchid-miming irises that speak too loud of opulence and sumptuous circumstance. Cherish them not, O gardener, knowing how soon the desert breathes in every Babylon, and withers all things that men have tilled and trained, too often not for mere beauty's sake, but only to prove the old Mammonian power. Knowing how soon the lovely weeds, half disinherited, return and vanished grasses break the squares and circles of the flowery plots and beard the creviced fountains. Turn rather to sand verbenas yellow as the sun that flourish on the crumbling dunes, to yarrow and the blackbird-ridden reeds and willows following the dark sunken channel of marsh-lost waters toward the sea. Turn rather where springs the pale and vineyard mutton flocks in basins granite-rimmed, and the dwarf alpine manzanitas make arabesques upon the fretted stone. Turn rather to ripens charting upon trunk and boulder the track of centuries unclocked. He shall be planted These be tended never by squink and sweat of any laborer, and these shall flower the unmanned eternity of earth. When the last empire dies, the fat mandragora uprooted by its rebel governors. High surf, loud as a trump that made the modest walls of Jericho to tremble and reel and sway, the voice of ocean sweeps this granite verge. The cormorants today, back diving through the falling walls of surge, float not too near the rocks, and smoky white-haired phantoms ride along spine rollers, curving across the bay from gulfs that round Sipando, art to fade. For me who stand enchanted and exalt, seized up into a short eternity, no anger and no sorrow that men feign informs the risen main. I hear alone the impassable roar of years and centuries and cycles rolling under the solar and galactic vault, over the cliffs and cities, over the mountains, from shore to crumbled shore. Seeker, in valleys where the lotus falls and rots by lily-stifled streams, the sleeper dreaming of the sea shall rise and leave the halcyon lawns and follow fainting trails alone into the waste that has no well, or fare on some phantasmal quest to climes beyond the boreal snow. For sated with the lotus fruit, he craves again the vanished brine, the sunken ships, the siren isles, the maelstroms haunted by the new. Amid chimera and mirage, he plucks the acrid outland poem and mordant herbs that make him whole, and trails the meteor and the star to leave his vulture burnished bones in lands of nightmare sleep, and they shall happily share whose bones are made where now the lotus blossoms blow. Don Quixote on Market Street, riding on Rocinante where the cars with dismal unremitting clangors pass, and people move like curbless energumens, roused by fiends of fury back and forth. Behold, Quixote comes in battered mail, arm gaunt with eyes of some keen haggard walk, far from his ears, gazing right and left, over his face a lightning of disdain, flashes in limbs the hollowness of cheeks, drawn for the sons of battle, and his hand tightened beneath its gauntlet on the lance. This and foe had challenged him for sight of unredressed wrong, provoked his ire. Brave spectre, what chimera shares thy saddle, pointing me to this place? Thy tale is told, the high, proud legend of all causes lost, the quenchless torch emblazoning black ages. Go hence, deluded paladin, there is no honor here nor glory to be won. Knight of La Mancha, turn thee to the past. Amid its purple marches ride brave, nor tilt with thunder-driven iron mills that shall grind on to silence. Chivalry has flown to stars, unsullied by by the fumes that have befouled these heavens, and romance, departing quill and frill, her order flound, and towers unbuilded in an age to be. Waste not thy nightfulness in wars unworthy, for time his Alaska's shall destroy, full soon and bring to stopless, cloudy ruin all things that fret thy spirit, writing down this past with pandemonium walled, this Hinnom where Moloch and where Mammon heard the doom. Surreal East sonnet, the lyre-bird giblets in the frying pan, cheep crisply to the sibilant blue gas. A Congo mouth gulps a blonde demitas, then spews on the flowered rug from Isfahan. Rome's red flamingo fellows wave their fans, while stilt-legged craw and stomach-sack, alas, march down beneath the 4 times clear morass, bannered with mildewed Naples as man. But brandished over stale antiquities, still rise the verdant bones of litanies, flying the parchments of new horoscopes. The sage arachnodon from Regulus, emitted souvenirs on raveled ropes, will happily hang some dried esophagus. Hesperian fall. The season brings but little gold, and only rusty views and sanguines dull. These rude hills with darkling lava poured, and with thick somber rocks embossed, that yield small pasture to the mordant sun. And leaves of toneless brown and fawn cluster the glaucous foliage of blue oaks amid the fallow grasses leonine. And the live oaks grave and winter waiting green, and the dim grays and dusky verdures of the pines seem to turn darker with October's heat. In lowland and ravine, by dwindled rill, and narrow river, willow, and poplar and wild grape will burn to purer yellows, to ruddier or more empurpled stains. And in the rows of fruit-plucked orchard trees, exotic pomp, deciduous splendor, royal hued, of other climes, and orient autumn's flame. But here are the desiccate and sun-struck dells, no similar gauds assume. Watching the tardy portents of slow change, prolonged unnotably through changeless days, I walk in solitude where memories return, that die not with a single season's leaves, but still delay the blind Nepenthian doom, and gather stranger hues from these that clothe the tree, or fold the autumnal grass. Love walks with me, a spectre beautiful, with fallen seasons and the sun's wrath. And on the ground our linked shadows run together, and our heavy hair is blown, invisible sending to the witch's web, on winds from off the sea, the bottom shore we followed long ago. At ecstasy and teen, wild as the spray of combers reaching us, on crags that held the perilous paths of love, return to haunt these uplands, calm and sere, and wafts of cypress balsam, keen and sweet, from the sped years blow over me, and Lobus rises like a granite ghost to crown the sealess woes. Thus conscious and remembering, I move across a land that seems oblivion still, a land whose primal languor drowse the will, whose sleepy light and dim horizon there proffer the earth's antique forgetfulness. But for a while I spurn the peace that comes to all, or wrath or late, and clasp the cherished pain as one with face amid foreign blossoms pressed, who finds them fragrant air and knows that there no thorn. Now will the stones lie still and taciturn and secret and withdrawn in that dark entity we cannot share, and where the pines their level branches swing lightly in gusts that rise and pass, but stir not ever in their rooted stance. I hear a voice that sings some old world measure, magical and clear, or catch the glimmer of a girl's white feet moving in moonlit saraband. O voice none other hears that sings to me, now must I muse on passions that unfold, slow as the lichen grows, or swiftly as the thunder of the night, and think on how the many have withered, but the one abides. The shadow of a cloud falls from the gnarled and boulder buttressed oak, beneath whose boughs I pause, noting the mistletoe, already pearled with wintry berries white, mid leaves of mottled bronze and fuel mort. After the day is drawn nigh, and dark-toothed wind and tempest will sail, such spare, sad splendor as these hills put on, and wildly strew green leaves and sere together for that doom which waits for all. Meanwhile the southward drooping sun shines warm on grasses pale and foliages that fade, and on the fadeless lichen of the storm. And still, O season of Circean dream, preferred from long ago, I find the music far and sorcerous, like one who hears the dryad singing from her tree. And still beneath this lattice sun, love is the freshness of your shadows, love, the flame within your distant azure sleeps. Nada. This wakeful death affords not any rift, where root of weed or blossom cleaves the tomb. Ungrown as yet no yewen bowers lift, bringing serene misericordial gloom upon this sepulchre, adust and bare, writ with a legend plain to one alone, whose voice could quicken the unvital air, recalling Lazarus from his room of stone. Oblivion's river flows in other lands from this where memory feeds a mordant spring. The walking dead beseech with parting hands the cool far shadow of the raven's wing, and leaning from the molded bed of lust, love's skeleton writes nada in Ecclesiastes from the French of Le Comte de Lille. Better a living dog, the preacher said, than a dead lion. All things are shadows, save to eat and drink, and the everlasting grave with life's ephemeral nothingness is fed. So mused he, sitting alone and somberly, On the high tower with eyes that roamed afar, as from a headland over world and star, in the ancient nights on his chair of ivory. Old lover of the sun, who sorrowed thus, death too is but illusion, cheating us. Happy is he that once wept freed of strife. Always I hear with frightened ears attending, amid the frenzy and horror never ending, the long, long roaring of eternal life. Moly, who are ye that always wander up and down and here and yonder? We are they that ever the desert straightened creek, through dank forests darkening holy, tarns remote and melancholy, for the flower known as Moly, flower that wards the flesh and heart from beguileful Circe's art. Seek no more, speak no more, not on mountain, moor, or shore, not by noon, nor under moon, blows the plant of magic boon. Not with eyes shall any find it, nor with fingers pluck and wind it. From the dust of limbs and heart shall the roots of Moly start. Over thy forgetful grave shall the flower of Moly wave.
Clark Ashton Smith, best known for his fantasy and science fiction stories, was primarily a poet. His first literary efforts were in this field, and I sensed his conviction that any lasting reputation he might attain would depend on the merits of his poetry. I am Robert Elder, like Clark, a lifelong resident of Auburn, California, and it was my privilege to know him during his later years. He was about 25 years my senior, and was well into middle life before I became acquainted with him. Clark was a familiar figure in Auburn, then a small town of about 3,000 population. Although most people were aware of him, only a few could claim to know him well. I remember the first time I ever spoke to him was on the occasion of his marriage. As a reporter for the local newspaper, the Auburn Journal, I learned of Clark's intended wedding, and I stopped at the office of the Justice of the Peace to cover the story. I chatted with him briefly after the ceremony and met his bride, the former Carol Dorman of San Francisco. This short encounter was scarcely an introduction, so I was surprised a few months later to receive a note from Clark inviting me to dinner at his home. The invitation puzzled me because Clark was not a person given to entertaining, and I could not imagine what he wanted with me. I also felt a little trepidation in that he had the reputation of being a remote, unapproachable person, and I did not know what we should talk about. But my curiosity overcame my fears, and I showed up at the Smith home, a rustic house in a wooded area south of town, where Clark had spent his life. I was welcomed by the couple, and while his wife prepared dinner, Clark and I retired to his den, where I learned what the occasion was all about. Some time before, I had written a novel entitled Whom the Gods Destroy, about a man who was out of sympathy with the events of his day. Clark liked the book, even finding some traits in the leading character which he identified with himself, and he wished to discuss the story with me. I was pleased that a man of Clark's literary reputation should be impressed with my work. Far from being unapproachable, Clark appeared friendly and interesting to me, and as we launched into a discussion of our literary tastes and aims, all constraint vanished, and we began a friendship that lasted during the remaining years of his life. Since their marriage, the Smiths had spent part of their time at Pacific Grove on the Monterey Peninsula. It was during one of their frequent visits back to Auburn that we decided to record Clark on tape. I think the idea was mine, since I had a new tape recorder I wanted to use, and his wife may have had something to do with it, as she had been giving Clark elocution lessons to help him with the occasional public readings he gave of his works. The poems were chosen at random, mostly by me, from a couple of his books, The Dark Chateau and Spells and Filters. Sometimes I am asked if Clark had a favorite among his works. If so, he did not reveal it to me, but I recall a few of his remarks regarding some of the poems we recorded. The poem, The Tired Gardener, expressed Clark's marked preference for the wild gardens of nature over cultivated gardens. His own yard showed no sign of cultivation, but was left entirely natural. When I chose the poem Don Quixote on Market Street, I remember him saying with satisfaction, "That is one I like." And he confided to me that the poem Nada was inspired by a macabre painting he had seen, depicting a skeleton leaning from its coffin, and with its bony finger writing the word nada, nothing, in the dust. These poems were recorded in the late 1950s, when Clark was approximately 65 years of age.